Hello, Patriots, praying citizens, and truth seekers. Today is Monday, September 10th. We have a storm brewing in the Atlantic, and it is headed for South Carolina. We will be praying at the end of this news report to send it back from whence it came back out into the Atlantic, away from the people of South Carolina. And we have a tweet from the president echoing Q's words, or does Q echo Trump? He said, "We are with you." So let's get into today's report. I'm going to start with my newsletter, and then we will get to the Q posts. So I'm calling this a storm warning for the deep state as Trump prepares to release the full FISA application. While South Carolina battens down the hatches and Christian believers hit their knees to beseech God to turn Hurricane Florence back out to sea, the deep state has their own storm preparations underway. This looks to be the week, or at the very latest next week, that President Trump will reveal 20 pages of the Obama administration's application to spy on his campaign that have been kept redacted or blacked out until this time. Operation Crossfire Hurricane was the Obama administration deep state effort to keep Donald Trump from becoming president, or when that failed, to remove him from office. The premise was that he colluded with the Russians, whoever they are, to sway the election. Sometime before the summer of 2016, they set up the operation using foreign governments and several spies to entrap Trump associates by planting and harvesting lies. These are the new revelations coming out just before the president is expected to release the remaining 20 pages of the spying application. The FBI leaked information to the press, according to a letter sent by Representative Mark Meadows, Republican from North Carolina, to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Meadows said he has grave concerns that a systemic culture of leaking by high-ranking officials was a coordinated effort to harm the Trump administration. And this, a text from Special Agent Peter Strzok, who was in charge of the Hillary illegal email server investigation and Operation Crossfire Hurricane. He'd sent this message to his lover, Department of Justice Attorney Lisa Page, and in it he discusses a media leak strategy. On April 10th, 2017, he texted, I had literally just gone to find this phone to tell you I want to talk to you about media leak strategy with DOJ before you go." 2 days later, he congratulated Page for getting 2 derogatory articles about Trump aide Carter Page into the press. Meadows, who's chairman of a House committee reviewing the matter, wants to see all written communications from several FBI and DOJ officials dating from June 2016 to June 2017. The committee also wants to subpoena Joe Pientka, who interviewed former FBI Director James Comey related to Hillary's illegal email server. On Friday, George Papadopoulos, the Trump volunteer who was the target of this entrapment, was sentenced to 14 days in jail and a fine of $9,500 for lying to the FBI. The same day, it was reported by The Hill that Joseph Mifsud, one of the spies used by the FBI who has been missing since November 2017, is now presumed dead. Mifsud was named as a defendant in a lawsuit by the Democratic National Committee, who is suing Russia, Trump, and WikiLeaks for interfering in the 2016 election. Yeah, that's called projection, blaming on other people what you yourself are doing. Joe DeGeneva, a former U.S. attorney who was interviewed by Sean Hannity, dropped an information bomb last week when he said, "We can no longer trust the Department of Justice under Rod Rosenstein. He's now under investigation, and he can't do FISAs anymore." So, when Trump releases these 20 pages of the application to spy on his campaign, it will implicate perhaps a dozen or more people in the Obama administration. According to the Trump insider known as Q, who posts on the 8chan board, there are 5 things to think about. Number 1, they will be unmasked as having used a phony dossier and leaking to the press in order to justify spying on a presidential candidate, and after his election victory, a sitting president. Number 2, the declassification of the FISA warrant application will initiate the awareness that all who signed it are currently under investigation, and there are several people in the Department of Justice that signed these FISA applications. There was an initial application and it had to be renewed every 90 days. So I believe there was an original and 3 renewals. It will show without argument that the Obama administration knowingly presented false information to a FISA court to obtain the legal permission to spy on Trump for the sole purpose of influencing the 2016 election. It will show without argument that Obama and Hillary, not the Russians, used this scheme as a firewall to protect themselves against possible loss of power. It will show without argument that the United Kingdom and Australian spy agencies helped in the scheme that was led by former CIA Director John Brennan. He gave Obama regular updates on the operation in his PDB, or Presidential Daily Briefings. All right, and we're going to pray for this at the end of this report. Now, Hurricane Florence is threatening the eastern coast. It's bearing down and threatening residents in South Carolina and then on either side. We have stood in the gap for God's mercy before. He's honored our prayers, so we will do that again and just ask Him to send that thing back into the ocean. Now I want to talk about Syria. It's been very difficult following this story, digging up the different parts and pieces to pull it all together, and you will notice that I'm using some sources from Russia. I think we have to do that. We can't trust our own media. We can't trust the Western media at all. I mean, just solely, we have to look at what the Russians are saying. All right, so this is a picture of Syrian soldiers who are at the edge of the Idlib province where all this activity is supposedly happening. You will notice that they are just dressed for normal duties, and you do not see any gas masks hanging from their equipment, from their belt, anywhere on their uniforms. All right, and some people are saying that this is the final battle for Syria, but I'm going to show you with this report that I don't think it is, and it gives us a lot of hope for what's going on there. But first, the bad news. Russian and Syrian forces are beefing up and moving to take Idlib province, the one remaining rebel stronghold in Syria. The U.S. has been busy as well, according to Russia Today. Russian media reports that on Saturday, U.S. jets dropped highly flammable white phosphorus on the Deir ez-Zor town of Hejin. Large fires were observed in Hejin on Sunday, according to Lieutenant General Vladimir Sevchenko of the Russian Federation. A Pentagon spokesperson denied the allegation, saying none of the military units in the area are even equipped with those munitions. And on Monday, the Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. officials claim Assad has approved a gas attack in Idlib. Now, besides their stronghold in Idlib, ISIS still controls a pocket of territory in Deir ez-Zor and has outposts across the Syrian desert. One source claims there are 40,000 plus ISIS terrorists who have infiltrated Syria from 100 other countries. There are concerns that these fighters may stage a false flag attack that they can blame on Assad's government forces. In the past, such attacks may have been carried out by the White Helmets under their disguise as humanitarian aid workers. In 2017, a documentary about the White Helmets won international acclaim, helping to establish the group in a positive light, although there are many photos and videos on the internet showing how they may have staged the rescues after initiating the attacks. The Russian Ministry of Defense accused the U.S. and its allies of preparing to stage a chemical attack in Syria as a pretext for retaliatory airstrikes. Russia Today reported on August 25th that 8 canisters of chlorine were delivered to a village to be used by White Helmets to simulate a rescue operation. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton stated that the U.S. will respond very strongly if the Syrian regime uses chemical weapons. A Syrian official commented that such statements only serve to escalate the situation. In April, the US, UK, and France carried out airstrikes in response to an alleged gas attack in Douma, which the West blamed on Assad's government. The operation started hours before a team from the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons was due to arrive. Syrian defenses were then scrambled to repel 103 missiles launched at civilian and military targets, intercepting at least 71, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Officials from Iran, Russia, and Turkey met on September 7th in order to try and straighten out what they're going to do going forward, but they couldn't come to any substantive agreement. In the meantime, Russia's Navy landed its massive amphibious marine on Syria's shores and is preparing to conduct its largest combat military drill in history. All right, well, making the truth even harder to come by, YouTube, which is owned by Google, has just cut off the channels belonging to the Syrian government. This is in addition to YouTube's newest rounds of censorship that have banned certain topics and some conservative creators. Google is a CIA operation, as we have explained in recent issues of this newsletter. These bans on YouTube indicate the deep state is determined to control the narrative. Is that so that the military-industrial congressional complex that Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us about can have its next war? In August 2013, now this is before he was even a candidate, Donald Trump tweeted, "Be prepared, there's a small chance that our horrendous leadership could unknowingly lead us into World War III." Did something happen between then and now to change his mind? Or is he perhaps allowing the warmongers to expose themselves? Award-winning British investigative journalist Robert Fisk returned from Syria and published a new report. Fisk says he did a 300-mile tour around the frontier of Idlib and found multiple thousands of crushed and abandoned buildings, empty highways, and a few hundred Syrian soldiers, none of whom had gas masks for an impending chemical weapons attack. Fisk concluded that the Army's presence at the Idlib frontier was to fight off and capture rebel fighters, and there was no sign of an imminent catastrophic attack coming in Idlib. Virginia State Senator Richard Black, back from his trip to Syria, said this about his meeting with President Assad, and this is coming from Sputnik, not from the U.S. press. He said this is the second time that I've met with President Assad. We had a 45-minute schedule, and we ended up talking for 3 hours. The last time he was optimistic, he was determined. This time there was almost a spring in his step. He was quite joyous and happy. I think, like all Syrians, he realizes that unless the West gets involved in a very malign fashion, the war will end rather soon. You know, I don't know. Do we believe this man who spent 3 hours with President Assad, or do we believe our own media? President Trump tweeted a caution about the use of chemical weapons on September 3rd. But considering the fact that he often communicates to the opposition through his tweets, it's possible that this was meant for the deep state, not for Syria. This is what he said: President Bashar al-Assad of Syria must not recklessly attack Idlib province. The Russians and Iranians would be making a grave humanitarian mistake to take part in this potential human tragedy. Hundreds of thousands of people could be killed. Don't let that happen. All right, and like I said, we will come back and we're going to pray for all these things. Now let's get to the Q post. I'm going to start with what Q posted today, Monday, rather than starting with over the weekend, and then I will backtrack. All right, so this morning we had this. It is a little meme, your vote counts. Q says, we will do our job to protect the vote. Will you do yours? Fight, fight, fight. We know that if we do not go out and vote, we cannot expect to win. All right, and this is 2128, 2127. Okay, we'll start with 27. And it is talking about the movement of human beings through the trade that is not of their own will. And I'm trying to couch these words because YouTube continually censors my videos if I mention what this is actually called. So I'm going to try to skirt around it to avoid all of their algorithms. SA controlled U.S. puppets. Now, this is from December 1st. SA stands for Saudi Arabia. And we know there was a palace coup back in the fall, and this is talking about that time period. Strings cut. D's dropping all over sexual misconduct. Coincidence directly after SA, and he says this is the first stage. Don't you realize the war has gone public? List who will not be running for re-election. Coincidence? Phase 1. Easy to swallow. Loss of power and influence. Good time to prosecute. Just wait until next week. You are all patriots. Q. And we know that over the weekend it was announced that Les Moonves, who is the head of CBS, is stepping down because of allegations that he was not behaving himself with women. Why are powerful and influential people resigning due to past misconduct allegations of that nature? Why are these allegations now surfacing a 10-month span? Why now? Those sorts of human being I'm going to abbreviate. HT arrests up, SA cooperating, and then this is the name of a cult that was recently outed. It's called Nexium. When does a bird sing? And this word bird could stand for a military database that captures intelligence. Eyes wide open. And then he posts this White House government briefing statements, President Donald Trump working to end HT. Coincidence? Network being dismantled, sheep no more, Q. I want to just go to that. This is part of that briefing, that executive order. My administration will focus on ending the absolutely horrific practice of HT, and I am prepared to bring the full force and weight of our government, whatever we can do, in order to solve this horrific problem. President Donald J. Trump. Okay, 2128. This was pretty much what I read to you in my newsletter. Declassification of FISA will initiate the resignation and recusal and or removal of Rod Rosenstein. Declass of FISA will initiate the awareness that all signers will be currently under investigation. I think he means that they are currently under investigation, that as soon as this, just because we don't know what's in the redacted portions doesn't mean everybody else at the FBI doesn't know. So the people that need to know, and these people are under investigation. Declass of FISA will factually demonstrate without argument the U.S. government under Hussein knowingly presented false evidence to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court in an effort to obtain legal U.S. intelligence, umbrella surveillance of POTUS, IDEN target, for the sole purpose of influencing the 2016 election of the presidency, not Russia, but Hussein HRC, projection, safeguard against possible loss of power, firewalls, use of back channel surveillance and spy insertion, and then he has in bold body 1, 2, and 5 by UK/AUS, so Britain and Australia, primary, activated under Director Brennan, Director Clapper, with presidential daily briefings, regular updates, and live streaming. White House, Hussein, non-oval, so it was happening in the Situation Room, coordination. FISA, full, brings down the House, the White House, Q. Then post 2130, the timestamp on this will be important later. It's 1435, and this is Bill Mitchell. His tweet, tonight on Your Voice, Steel Truth, Ann Vandersteel continues to expose deep state with an exclusive interview with Bill Binney, former technical director at the NSA. This is explosive reporting, folks, 8 Eastern Time on Your Voice America TV. Okay, so here's the actual post by Q. Here's Bill Mitchell's Twitter, and then Donald Trump's Twitter, and then he gives us 0 0:00 Q, which is a timestamp. The storms in the Atlantic are very dangerous. We encourage anyone in the path of these storms to prepare themselves and to heed the warnings of state and local officials. The federal government is closely monitoring and ready to assist. We are with you. So here's the "we are with you" that Q always uses, but it's abbreviated WAWY. And you'll see the timestamp, it's going to come into play. So this is at 3:35 p.m. 21:35. Knowledge is power. Thanks and Godspeed. Q says, how do you know when something very big is about to drop? Attacks increase from all directions. Ready the memes. FISA corruption. You have more than you know. Keep up the good fight. We stand together. Q. Okay, and then this is the second part of that. It doesn't all fit in one frame if I want you to be able to read it, and I do. So this is reflecting how do you know something big is about to drop? The attacks increase. Let's look at these attacks. Maxine Waters goes on Trump impeachment tear, vows to get him. Would you like to see that? It's actually kind of funny. So here we go. Let me make it so you can hear it. All right, here we go.
They say, Maxine, please don't say impeachment anymore. And when they say that, I say impeachment, 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 impeachment.
Okay, and then we have MSNBC. Author believes multiple grounds for impeaching Trump. The Atlantic. Jerry Nadler, Trump Democrats impeachment. This is all of these things are about impeachment. Yeah, we're not going to give it any more time than that. Okay, so this is a comparison of timestamps. This is post number 2136. And these are people on the 8chan board. No POTUS tweets today yet. Q, how about a 0 delta to encourage anons? And then this is when he posts the Bill Mitchell Twitter, 1435. And then the 0:0 Donald Trump status is at 12:35. So you see the same thing, and it's just a difference in time zone. All right, 2137. Battle stations ready. Where we go one, we go all. And then Q, where I think this is we are with you instead of the A, so WRWY, where we go one, we go all, just like Trump's tweet. And then this is an explanation, 2138 graphics showing 2 time zones, update requested, and then the 0:00 Q, and then someone made this. So this is Donald Trump's tweet. The storms in the Atlantic are very dangerous. We encourage anyone in the path of these storms to prepare themselves and to heed the warnings. Okay, we are with you. And you'll see the timestamp and this comparison. CDT is 235, EDT is 335. We've got the 0 delta, and 1535 equals 335. And then the person says, gotcha Q, and Q says, anons catch it all. 2 devices used, 1 carrier, pushed exactly at the same time with a 10 seconds variance, device lag or feeder site delay, request fulfilled, Q. And here's a better picture of it so you can see. 2140. The link post must be added to the graphic, request fulfilled, Q. And this is an anon posting this, and Q says, make it and they will crumb Q. You know, they're called breadcrumbs. 2141, an anon posts this, God wins, with a picture of Trump, and it looks like an angel or something, an angelic being in the background. And he says, that's a perfect proof, guys. Request heard, delivered, no coincidences. Thanks for doing that, Q. And then Anand says, anyone that complained about a 10-second delta would have complained about a 10 millisecond delta. Obvious answer was lag. Thank you. Where we go one, we go all. And Q says, we thank you. Shills only shill. Patriots win. All right, and then this is updated with the request fulfilled at the top, updated to show the Anand's post. That was 2142. Then this, Band of Anons, there was a time when the world asked ordinary men to do extraordinary things. And the Anon says, we serve at the pleasure of the president. And the second part of that is this Reddit link, arrow up and share on all platforms. And you see this FISA-gate. Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Scott Perry, and Steve King. And it looks like a movie poster. And Q responds, hooah, Oscar-worthy? Q. One of the things Q has told us is that we can escape the algorithms that catch things and suppress things by using memes because computers can't figure out the humor in memes, or they can't figure out the thought process behind it. And so we have a better chance of getting our words out if we use memes. And this is a meme. All right, now, this next one, I picked the better of the two, and it's even gross, but it's better than the other one. Q gave us two links to tweets, one from the New York Post and the other one from Sky News. And he says, nothing to see here. This is post 2144. Sky News, drinking young blood could prevent age-related diseases, a study reveals. Well, let me just tell you something. The good news is the actual study doesn't talk about drinking blood. It talks about infusions, but it's still disgusting. So there's a company called Ambrosia, which is funded by Peter Thiel, who is the co-founder of PayPal. And they did a study and they found that anyone over 35 benefited when they were infused with blood from kids that were 16 up to young adults of 25. And they charged $8,000 for 2.5 liters. And it's the latest thing. And it's sick and disgusting, and it relates right back to, you all know what, with children. Okay, numbers 2146 and 2147 says this Thorlock is the Punisher. It's just a little GIF that shows the Punisher. And Q says, prepare your memes. Non-NSA tech today cannot read and filter. Then he adds, attention on deck, battle stations ready, memes at the ready, where we go one, we go all. And then on 2147, here's a picture of beams of light. Looks like New York City. Looks like the 9/11 memorial. We know tomorrow is 9/11, so we will never forget and we will never forgive. Q. Now, please give me a moment to just say something about this. I don't agree with this, and I just got to get it out there. But I think it's because why Q is saying we will never forgive means we're not going to let these people off the hook that did this. And I agree with that. But I think we've got to let the process happen. And when you forgive, it doesn't mean you let people off the hook. It just means you personally let the bitterness behind it go. If you do not let bitterness go, it will eat you alive. It will make you sick. So I just have to stick that in there because I answer to God first, and we have to forgive. God says if you don't forgive others for what they do, then I can't forgive you for what you do. So I need forgiveness, therefore I'm going to forgive. It doesn't mean that people don't have to pay a price for what they do. Okay? I hope that straightens it out. All right, now we're going to go back to the Q posts from the weekend and catch up a little bit. There were just a few. We have this from Saturday, the 8th, this pretty picture of the American flag, and this drop. There was a time when our children stood at attention, put their hand on their heart, and in one united voice recited the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, show of hands. Who had to do that as a kid in school? Me. And I'm a baby boomer. I'm sure there are others like me out there. There was a time when strength and honor meant something. There was a time when standing for our flag meant something. There was a time when our history, our heritage was taught with pride and respect. There was a time when respect was given to those who serve or served, bled, and died to protect and defend our God-given freedom. There was a time when we were grateful. There was a time when these United States of America, one nation under God, was united. There was a time when these United States of America, one nation under God, was united under one flag. There was a time when we the people decided our future. There was a time when we the people had a voice and were united and strong. And then he puts in here the Pledge of Allegiance. It's time we the people reclaim what is rightfully ours. May God bless America and all those who defend and protect her against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We stand together as patriots. Where we go one, we go all. Home of the brave, Q+. 2120 and 21. New shill tactic is to smear Sean Hannity. Just so everyone understands, Q has directly told us to watch Hannity. Q also links us to Sarah Carter, who is literally on Hannity every single night. Hannity is a patriot. Then he posts two Twitter statuses for Thomas Drake and says knowledge is power. Here they are. PSA, heard reportforthepresident.org claiming I'm prominently behind it with my image on their website. However, I disavow any connection of any kind. I'm not part of their team, was never contacted, and they're using my name without my consent or permission in blatantly false advertising. Then he says, brought to my attention that JTFMAGA.com website has me prominently listed as part of their team. False. Can categorically state I'm not on their team, am not part of JTF MAGA, was never contacted by them, and do not support them. Leaves major cues about their integrity. So who is Thomas Drake? Well, this is interesting. He's a former senior executive of the NSA, decorated U.S. Air Force and U.S. Navy veteran, and a whistleblower. In 2010, the government alleged that Drake mishandled documents, one of the few such Espionage Act cases in the U.S. history. Drake's defenders claim that he was instead being persecuted for challenging the Trailblazer Project. He is the 2011 recipient of the Rittenhour Prize for Truth-Telling and co-recipient of the Sam Adams Associates for Integrity in Intelligence Award. On June 9, 2011, all 10 original charges against him were dropped. He rejected several deals because he refused to plea bargain with the truth. He eventually pleaded out to one misdemeanor count for exceeding authorized use of a computer. All right, so good guy, bad guy, we can all make up our own minds on that one. 21, 22, and 23. This Anon says, I love shills now at this point, even when this is over some Mossad or /clown person, so CIA, will still be typing useless division tactics out of his frayed handbook onto an empty board. Some people just don't know when they've lost. All right. Then Q responds, last and final comments regarding AJ and Associates, you know who that is, Mr. Jones, attempts and logical thinking. So he gives us a link to a Jack Posobiec Twitter status and wants us to watch at 21 seconds, and then a Breitbart article linked 2 days prior to the article being published. Question mark. Reconcile. Note the time. 9:41. 100%. Note Apple's stock images. 9:41. 100%. Reconcile. And then he gives us a YouTube video. Okay, so let's look at this. Oh, sorry, we're not done yet. And then another Posobiec status, and then a thread reader. He says, reconcile. Attempts to deceive autists and anons will fail. We are a threat to their livelihood. And plus class. Do not let their attempts corrupt good organizations. Think OANN, which he outed as giving false information. They want you divided. Stay strong. Stay together. And then he gives us a Tucker Carlson Twitter status. Division keeps them in power. Okay, this is a lot of stuff. We'll go through it a little bit at a time. So, from Jack Posobiec. Months ago, I announced a task force of pro-Trump vets and IC was forming. We never stopped working on it. Many of the deep state stories you've read lately came from these 80-plus whistleblowers and American heroes. Now we have a name. So here's the one that Mr. Drake was talking about, JTF MAGA. He says it's coming. Mr. Binney himself is reporting for duty. And this is the same guy that was, well, let's go up there. And it's right here that he's talking to this woman. And so I heard somebody else, I happened to listen to a Q person, say that this was a great report and we have to listen to it. And I think Q is saying, not so fast, these people are not trustworthy. Because he's linking it with Jack Posobiec. So, I don't know. You all make up your own mind. And then Posobiec saying, disclosing, for those asking, I talked with JTF MAGA when they were vets for Trump and met Josh in 2016 on the campaign trail. I'm not a member of the group, nor am I one of their sources. Okay, Jack. And then Jack is the one who says microchip is Q, and we know that that's false. So we have an article here, or a tweet from September 14th of 2017, where Microchip wants us to look at a Breitbart article from 2 days before he actually posted this. So the article was written on the 16th. Sorry, I said that backwards. The article is written on the 16th, and Microchip is posting 2 days prior with the article with a link to it. So, you know, what's that? Article date 9/16, post date 9/14. So unless he's a time traveler, it's impossible. Okay, and then this is from another one from Posobiec. Good morning to everyone except chat log deniers. And he's trying to defend himself, but we know that these chats can be altered. Q showed us how that is done already with one video. And here is another one. The same thing. It's a different video, but it's the same point. The person says, chat logs prove nothing. Point proven. Posobiec has never debunked Q. Credit to Breadbox. And this is that Reddit thread app. And this thing is only 53 minutes long. The other video was only 1 minute and 8 seconds. So that's how quickly they can teach you how to fudge a chat log to prove whatever you want to prove. How easy is it to debunk chat logs? Pretty darn easy. Okay, and then this is from Tucker Carlson. So Q gives us this, which is number 5 out of 6 tweets. So let's start at the beginning, though, just to make it easier to understand. The organized left is lying about a segment we did on Friday night. Our topic was diversity is our strength, a phrase our leaders use to end conversation rather than spur it. You hear it all the time. We asked, what exactly does it mean? Is it true? Here are the words from our segment. How precisely is diversity our strength? Can you think of other institutions, such as marriage or military units, in which the less people have in common, the more cohesive they are? Do you get along better with your neighbors and coworkers if you can't understand each other or share no common values? And if diversity is our strength, why is it okay for the rest of us to surrender our freedom of speech to just a handful of tech monopolies? These are the questions our leaders ought to be, sorry, he's got a misspelling in here, our leaders ought to be asking every day. How does a nation of 325 million people hang together? What do we all have in common as Americans? Why should we remain a country? Nothing is more important than answering this. Then number 5, which is what Q wanted us to look at, but our leaders aren't even asking these questions. Instead, they're trying to silence anyone who raises them, while at the same time promoting mindless tribalism for political expedience. Division keeps them in power. And This last piece, what's at stake isn't a cable news segment, it's the existence of rational conversation in America. If they can prevent you from asking honest questions, there's nothing they can't do. More on this tomorrow night. So the little piece that Q posted says, they want you divided, stay strong, stay together, division keeps them in power. And then this last one, 2025, knowledge is power. Thanks and Godspeed. And that's directed at Q. And Q responds, how do you know when something very big is about to drop? Attacks increase from all directions. Ready the memes. FISA corruption. You have more than you know. Keep up the good fight. We stand together. All right, thank you for hanging out with me for all of that. And now let's go ahead and pray because I think that this is so important. So we're going to first pray about this storm coming. And Father, I just pray for you to protect South Carolinians and anyone who's on the coast over there, the East Coast. Father, we just speak right now to the enemy that's directing the hurricane towards us. And we say no. We rebuke you in the name of the Lord Jesus. We send that thing back out into the ocean from whence it came. Let it just fall apart, dissipate, be disorganized, just like the enemy who is full of confusion, who's double-minded. Let the storm reflect the enemy's failings and his confusion because he doesn't follow God. And we just speak to it and say, you just fall apart in Jesus' name. And I pray, Father, that this will be a hurricane season that is completely not memorable because nothing happens. But I do pray for the storm, the deep state storm that is coming to take them down. And I just pray that, God, you prepare the hearts of the American people. There are many who are going to fall apart when they hear all of this. But Father, I just pray that there would be the outlets out there that you would censor the censors and you would keep them from shutting down voices of reason and voices of truth. And Father, we just depend on you and your love of us, your kids, and this nation and every nation on earth, Father. You have people, you love these nations, and you want good things to happen. And we pray that the walls of lies and accusation that have been protecting the enemy in this country and many countries, they would fall down and these people would be exposed for who they are. We ask it in Jesus' name. And I want to pray for what's going on in Syria. And Father, I just ask that you would expose the real enemy, the ones who are putting these false flag attacks together, the chemical weapons things, whoever they are, Father, whatever disguise that they're wearing, let us see right through it, Father. Let us see who they are. Let them be exposed for the world to see. And I pray for Donald Trump, give him wisdom as he makes decisions, and give him wise counselors that he can trust. And I pray, Father, for his humility, that he would be on his knees, remembering that he has nothing but what you've given him. And I want to leave you all with a couple of scriptures, Isaiah 66, 1 and 2. Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that you build for me, and where is the place of my rest? For all those things has my hand made, and all those things have been, saith the Lord. But to this man will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembles at my word. And just the word poor here would just be somebody who realizes that we are just dust that God breathed air into, and that our lives are a moment that fade away. But our lives on earth, but the one that we will live with him, and we will be back here to rule and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. That's what we look to. And that's why we humble ourselves before him. And when we do, then he lifts us up. So thank you all for being with me. Hang in there. The end is coming. And I will, according to the Lord and according to his will. I will see you next time.